Welcome back to Geek Warning, a podcast by Escape Collective that covers everything to know in the world of bicycle tech. I'm Dave Rome, and well, I guess I'm your new host. If you've been on Escape Collective in the past week or listened to our previous episode, then you'll know that James Huang has said farewell. And I can confirm that he's enjoying every minute of his fun employment. Still, the show must go on, and we're making a pivot with a new James, who I'll introduce in 1 second. Meanwhile, Escape's tech editor, Ronan McLaughlin, will join the pod when we have some geeky road and gravel race tech to discuss. And Ronan's performance process pods will continue as normal, increasingly crossing over into the world of tech, covering topics such as bike fit trends, race geometry, and aero-related things. Okay, back to the not-so-new voice that regular listeners may know. Mystery voice, what is the most prized bike in your personal collection?
It's a Cervelo R5 California.
That is not...
Do you need to know more than that?
That is not what I had assumed you would answer. I thought you'd assume... I had assumed you'd answer something with 26-inch wheels from the 90s.
Yeah, well, I have a few of those too. Yeah, it's a toss-up. I wasn't prepared for this question, so you can be floundering to answer it.
Okay.
But yeah, I hold on to the old stuff, and it grows increasingly valuable to me. So.
All right. Well, if you didn't pick that voice, it's Brad Copeland. Brad, welcome back to Geek Warning.
Am I the new James?
You're the new James.
I thought I'd be maybe like you'd be the new James, and I could be the new Dave.
Okay. If we're doing, yeah, I mean, we can. I guess the music stops, so we can all change chairs. Yeah.
Is that too? Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then I'm the new James. All right. Yeah, welcome back. We have had you on for a number of the Ask a Wrench episodes. And I guess, yeah, now you'll be joining me on a far more regular basis, which I'm excited about.
I am too.
For those new to your voice, I guess one of the quickest ways to introduce you this time around, I'd like to get to know you more over the next few episodes. But for now, I'm just going to ask you one question. Do you know how many mountain bike rounds you worked at as a mechanic? Sorry, how many World Cup mountain bike rounds?
I don't know how many it was. It was about 10 seasons worth.
Right.
And I didn't miss more than one or two of those. So it was a lot of them.
So it's nearing 100 probably in the...
Yeah,
okay.
Definitely.
All right. And across the teams of... I mean, you finished up with Scott Schramm.
Started with Specialized Factory Racing, finished with Scott SRAM.
Yep.
When I was with Specialized, I dabbled a little bit with the triathlon, some EWS, what else did I do? Helped out with a sort of like a pair of extra hands for the downhill team at the time. So I've had a healthy dose of experience, a couple Olympic games. So Hopefully I can answer some of these questions accurately.
Amazing. And these days, full-time dog parent?
Full-time dog parent, part-time bike mechanic.
Okay.
And fortunately, I'm able to have a little overlap in the middle with the dog at work. So
nice.
Everybody wins.
Nice. All right, Brad. Well, yeah, as I said, welcome. I am keen to get to know you a little bit better and let the listeners get to know you a little bit better in coming weeks. But for now, I guess let's just get started. I'm going to make a few changes to the format. We'll still have some tech news, but I'm going to save that to the end. For now, I think we should just talk about what's on our mind. And Brad, given your history as a mountain bike race mechanic, I'm sure you watched the World Cup over the weekend or saw some highlights of it. And what's on my mind is the winning wheels of Ineos. So Pauline Ferrand-Prevot and Tom Pidcock both won their respective races in the Olympic discipline race. And I don't know if you saw, but I was spotting some textile spokes.
Yeah, I just recently sort of caught wind of their wheel sponsor and read a kind of like a press release on the product. They only have one product. It's this wheel set, as far as I can tell. It does use what look like pie rope spokes or something very similar.
Yeah.
So definitely an ultra lightweight. I think it's sub 1,200 grams for the wheel set claimed, and it most likely is. And it has sort of a non-round inner diameter of the rim, which is kind of cool looking. I don't know a ton about them. I've never seen them in real life, except maybe without really realizing it when they were being tested as sort of unbranded prototypes. But anytime I hear about a mountain bike wheel that cracks the 1,200 gram barrier, I'm always interested. Specialized just dropped in another wheel set as well in that ballpark too. So
that one
uses carbon spokes, but yes.
So these in-house wheels. Do you know, are they still the Princeton Carbon Works, the P1 wheel? That is? Yeah, okay. So it's the offshoot of Princeton Carbon Works, which is a roadie brand.
That's my understanding. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, but they've saved even more weight out of them. I mean, when they released that Princeton Carbon Works wheel, I guess it was a few months ago, it wasn't super appealing on the weight scale, but it looks like they've potentially made some changes to the hubs and using pie spokes, which is textile sort of shoestring spoke that is superbly light. So I have had confirmation that they do dip below 1,200 grams now, which is pretty light. Do you assume we'll
especially I was going to say, when you consider how hard they're being ridden, that's quite an accomplishment.
Yes, yeah. And apparently I had suggested, because I think that rim also has a closed wall, as in like no tubeless tape needed. I had assumed there would be quite a nightmare to build, but I'm told it's not too bad. So but do you assume we'll see these at the Olympics?
Yeah, I would have to assume so. I mean, unless we have catastrophic failures that occur between now and then. But I would expect the likes of Tom and Pauline wouldn't be on some products they were at all worried about that happening, because when you can see, like we did at Nova Mesto, where they're both capable of winning the race, I don't think they're going to take any chances, especially if it's to save 20 grams in spokes or something like that versus a traditional, let's say a CX Ray or DT equivalent, something super light but steel and conventional. So I expect we'll see them there. I would expect to see probably at least one win on them there too, assuming everybody shows up and delivers what they're capable of.
Do you think the aerodynamics of the spoke, because those pie spokes or similar what would be like a bird spoke out of the US, they're not as aero, they've got a wider profile. Do you think that will even play a role in a race at Paris? Like, are the speeds high? Are the average speeds high enough for that to be important?
I would say it's not going to be more important than maybe how low inertia, for example, a lightweight wheel set is to constantly be accelerating like you do in a mountain bike race, where you're not necessarily riding at a sustained speed for the majority of the race, like in a time trial or triathlon event or something like that, where aero really is kind of like the number one consideration. Even as we talked about, it's so much so that it's hard to hold the position after spending hours testing it. Going into a race like that. So I would say too that I think aerodynamics is kind of like an untapped or somewhat untapped frontier in mountain biking. I think that the UCI kind of preempted it by banning a few positions that you would often see riders, especially at a course like Nova Mesto, with basically a track that they, like a paved surface that they ride on at the start finish of each lap. And there's like a long period of relatively high speeds for a mountain bike race. And so a few hands off the bars, kind of the puppy paw position, and some similar like riding on the fork crown, which was a somewhat common one from old Cape Epics. I think maybe Christoph Sauser may have pioneered that style. And but nevertheless, there's a few positions that are already banned. But as far as products go, there aren't a whole lot of aerodynamic focused products. I noticed Pauline and Tom, I believe, also were both wearing aero shoe covers, which may have been more of a statement and a style piece than it was a tech thing. But sometimes those things go hand in hand too. And if you feel cool, you ride fast. So but to answer your question, I don't know that wheel aerodynamics is going to be critical. Certainly, if you can squeeze something out of them, great. But I think, especially when you have a wheel set that light, we had on the Scott team Synchros Silverton SL wheels, which are also incredibly light, but it's a full carbon construction, like one piece. At least once it's finished, you sacrifice a bit of the ride quality. In other words, the ability of the wheel to flex and absorb some of the bumps. And on a rough track like Nova Mesto, and I'm sure how the Olympic track is going to be, having the forgiveness of a wheel with conventional or something resembling a conventional spoke, such as these textile options, I think would probably enhance the ride quality of the wheel, as well as offer such a impressive weight on the scale too.
Yeah, for sure. And that does seem to be like a common trend across all mountain bike disciplines, is like trying to get ride quality out of a wheel. Like, especially in downhill, you're starting to see riders go dip way below recommended spoke tensions to get more flex out of a wheel. And
different spoke butting, different butted spokes have different characteristics. The downhill guys would go to like a level of, I'm not even sure if it was just theoretical at a certain point. It might have been, but with their spoke lacing ideologies. So it's a whole other episode right there.
Yeah, cool. Did you spot any other tech from, I guess, in the last couple of rounds of cross country that may be spotted for the Olympics, that may be being tested for the Olympics, that you think's worth talking about, or is it stuff we've also seen before that?
There was one thing I'm still awaiting anyone to call me back and confirm what was going on. Victor Koretzky was conspicuously kind of absent from from the important half of the cross country race at Nova Mesto. I think he was a lot of people's favorite to win based on every performance he's had recently. There was some video footage of him messing with what we presume was a blip box under his stem, kind of tucked behind his number plate. It looked like he was running just multi-click blips as opposed to shifters, at least as opposed to a conventional axis pod to operate his shifters, and perhaps with the double click operate the seat post as well, which is a cool feature. We experimented with blip buttons a lot, and their functionality with electronic parts these days, it's pretty impressive. But it looked to me like that might have been not functioning the way it was intended, or may have had a role in his performance, or maybe his lack of top result.
Explain the blip button, the blip box to me. It's a little wireless unit that's placed under the stem, but what's it doing?
So it basically was a unit for triathlon and time trial. SRAM ETAP, originally in Axis products, now that it has 4 ports in it, and you can wire buttons. They have various types of buttons now, which plug into a port in the blip box, and the blip box itself contains a battery and a wireless sending unit, and you can program that blip box and the buttons that are plugged into it. Each button has a port in the port you can assign a function to, whether it's shifting, in the case of mountain bikes, a dropper seat post, and you can even have both buttons pressed simultaneously and have that functionality also do something else. So there's a lot of versatility. So a lot of riders, for example, would have like a right shifter button that would drop to a hard gear, a left button that would shift up to an easier gear, and you push both buttons and it would operate the dropper post, for example, on a mountain bike. On a tri bike, you might have both buttons pushed to shift the front chain rings and the independent buttons to do the back shifting only. So it's a pretty cool, versatile, option that without electronic shifting would not be possible. So it adds for some really interesting options for ergonomics and kind of the user interface, shall we say. But it appears that the tech may have lost this one because it seemed like there was something that he was fiddling with. But I don't have any confirmation about what exactly did or did not work.
Yeah, okay.
In that scenario. So
yeah, okay.
TBD, but that one jumped out at me.
Am I right in thinking you can now just run the blip wireless buttons, the ones with the integrated batteries, and not have like a master shifter? Like you can just link them direct to a derailleur now? Is that so on for road stuff and tri stuff you can, but if I'm not mistaken, it does not have functionality for the seat post. Ah, that's right. Yeah, okay.
Because
there's no hold. There's no long press for the button. Yeah,
right.
Okay. It's just a short press. Yeah. Okay.
And so it seems like it could be resolved with firmware or some type of cyber update.
Okay.
But as yet, to my knowledge, there's no.
So that's why they're still running the blip box. Why they're still using the wires, despite there being, in theory, newer technology.
Right, and I think we might just be about a half step behind on that being where we end up. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's probably something that everyone's actively aware of and working on, but has not yet emerged.
Yeah. So Victor ended up riding. It seems like Victor probably ended up riding with wireless shifters, but they weren't meant to be, and therefore they didn't work.
Yeah. They were supposed to be wired and weren't, and that was the problem. But yeah, I'll keep chasing down some details. Maybe we can circle back on this one.
Sticking with the mountain bike theme, but also introducing a secondary theme, which is Unbound Gravel, which is this weekend. There's a lot of talk, especially in Unbound Gravel, of riders going as wide as they can with tires. So there's a lot of talk of the pros basically fitting as big as their frame sponsor allows them to. So in some cases 50 mil, some of them are having to go smaller in the rear tire, but they really seem to be settling around the idea that bigger is faster. And I guess, coming, I know you were pretty hands-on with this at your time in mountain biking, where, I know Scott Schramm were the first professional team to run 2.4-inch wide tires, and that's pretty much become like the standard across the scene. I guess with that, like, one, like, can you confirm, like, is everyone now settled on bigger is faster in the mountain bike world?
I saw Chris Blevins was running 2.5s in the short track race last week at Nova Mesto. He was second place, you might recall. Victor Koretzky, speak of the devil, was on Specialized Pathfinder gravel tires, 47C width, or 47 mil, so less than a 2.0. It's got basically like a block rubber centered tread profile for super fast rolling with like file pattern kind of edges, more or less, is how I would describe it. So it's a super aggressive choice for a course. It was somewhat wet, but it's very flat and fast for the most part, so you don't need much in the way of traction, let's say. He did almost stuff it in one of the first turns on the course early in the race, coming in kind of on an inside line, and you kind of saw him sort of tuck the front wheel and almost lose it. But nevertheless, he managed to overcome that and win the race in a sprint against Chris, with two like the most opposing tire choices you could have on the same team, going 1-2. So as for which one is faster, or which is a better choice, I think Victor's, there's a lot more ways it could have gone wrong, but he's an incredible talent on the bike, so I think he overcomes a lot of that with just sheer riding ability. But that was another interesting tech observation, especially when it came from two riders on the same team running such a wildly different option for the same race at the same time.
So I guess we haven't settled the debate on whether wider is always better. But
I would say everyone is almost always going for it, especially in the cross country. It's definitely trending wider as well. But short setups and short track are always a little bit. I wouldn't base too much on that because people are getting a little bit experimental, let's say, and sometimes that may not be for the best.
And so for people not familiar with mountain bike, I mean, on any given World Cup weekend, there's two races. There's the short track and then there's the Olympic discipline. How long is a short track race?
Short track races typically last around like 20-ish minutes, 20 to 22 minutes or so.
Proper sprint event.
It's very fast. Heart rate is through the roof. There's not a real standardization of what the courses have to for the cross-country Olympic discipline. There's kind of like a minimum and maximum allowable amount of climbing. They can't be above a certain altitude. There's like distance length per lap requirements, and they all try to hit a target finishing time for the winner, or at least like a pretty narrow band. And that's how they determine how many laps everybody's doing and so forth. So so in short track, some of what happens on the cross-country Olympic distance race is determined by the outcome of the short track race in terms of your starting position. So it's an important race. Everybody takes it pretty seriously, or at least, if you have designs on the Sunday big show, you definitely don't want to just sit out and put your feet up at the back end of the field in the short track race. So it makes it pretty exciting, kind of strategically interesting. There's 2 titles to win. So I'm sure for athletes and bonuses on their salary, there's some incentivization to do well in both there, and it may favor riders of certain capabilities more in the short track, so it may give some different riders an opportunity to show off. Although I would say historically it looks like, there have been quite a number of double wins for a single rider on the weekends. It's like kind of whoever's real fit might win both, so it's not a guarantee that like there's a discipline specific rider who's going to come up and win all the short tracks and then be nowhere in the cross country. That's rarely the case, but yeah. So that's short track in a nutshell.
Rarely the case, but it has happened for sure. Where someone has a massive sprint on them and a powerhouse of 20 minutes and then just disappears in the longer race. So
yes.
But yeah, you're right. Like, definitely a good sign of form. But yeah, obviously it's also in a sense a different sport in that it's they're not going as high up into the hill or into the mountains, and there's typically fewer technical features. So it explains why we saw Victor on some gravel tires, where he wouldn't dare do that for the event on Sunday.
I don't think he would. You never know.
Yeah. Yeah, it might be more indicative of the track if we see him do that.
Yeah, but I don't know. I would have thought last week he would have done it in short track either. So I'm not gonna make any final calls on what Victor might do.
Okay, all right.
But it is interesting. I would say short track versus the long course discipline. They are required to ride at least the same frame and fork. There's obviously quite a bit of setup opportunities with mountain bikes these days, and the way you can fine tune the adjustment or the suspension setup to favor a discipline like short track versus cross country is kind of an interesting game to play as well from a technical side. So as a mechanic and a mechanic rider relationship, discussing how to optimize this very same bike for one thing versus the other thing. And this year, most of those races are back to back now with no day off in between, like it was when I was there. Right. So it's like a Saturday then a Sunday. So it's a busy one for the mechanics.
I hadn't noticed that time change, but
yes, and so you have to really kind of know what your setup is before, because you don't really have a lot of time to mess around playing with it after short track ends before the big show on the following morning.
Huh.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Where I was wanting to go with so if we assume wider tires are becoming more popular and in gravel as well, would you agree that as tires got wider, as the volumes got wider in mountain bike, the use of tire inserts became less prominent? Was that kind of a coinciding trend that you saw?
To a degree, I would say yes, but it also invites even lower pressure, because you, without really schropping on the side of the, into some turns on the tire, in a cross country race, you can really kind of push the limit of pressure, because you're not like hitting corners as hard as you would be in a downhill race, for example, where you might just roll the thing right off. It still does sometimes happen, and there's definitely a limit that sometimes gets pushed a bit too far. I would say when Kate and I were working together, she was
Kate Courtney
Kate Courtney, yes.
Yeah.
She was on 225s for a little while before we made the transition to 2.4s completely.
Okay. Yeah.
And when we did finally make the transition to 2.4s, we did stop using inserts.
Okay.
For almost every race. There's maybe an occasion or two where we did both. But our mud tire, which is called the Maxxis Severe, I think they've finally released this tire. But there's another kind of Scott Maxxis collab that we worked on for, it's like a fast rolling kind of XC race specific mud tire, 2.25 width. And for those, both because of the low pressures you tend to run in wet conditions, and the width, we were full noodles all the time.
Gotcha.
When we were running the 225s. So yeah, in my personal experience, that is the case. I was kind of, when you look at all the sealant and the different options now that exist within the insert, there's so many for different conditions and so forth now that, it's getting quite complex. And I almost feel like finding a different alternative solution to this problem is probably worthwhile, because it seems a little bit of like overdoing it with 3 or 4 or 5 different options in the insert department to choose which,
sure.
For your gravel race, you know what I mean? So I think, we also joke that why aren't we all just getting rid of these gravel bikes, because every year it seems they're getting closer and closer to what a mountain bike basically is, other than the handlebar shape. And, with a 2-inch wide, a 50 mil wide tire, you're basically to the same width as a mountain bike tire was up until about I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago. That was
I mean the rumor I've heard is that Pacer McKelvin will be on mountain bike tires for
there you go.
For Unbound and others are fitting 50 mil tires, which is like a 2.1 ish. Yeah.
I mean 25.4 is 1 inch, so 20 so 50 mils is actually technically less than 2 inches barely.
Yeah.
But just basically right on the nose at 2.0.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a big tire for
So I'd been hearing rumors that a lot of the riders have learnt their lesson over inserts and are going bigger volume, ditching the insert, and then in the event that they do have a flat, which is like Unbound. Unbound's like a race against the flats kind of thing. If they do get a flat, they can at least more easily get the tire off to fix it. Whereas I think inserts played a pretty significant role in the past where riders couldn't really get their tires off super easily.
That's a good point.
Probably use more energy wrestling a tire than they did riding the 200 miles. So it's
I can imagine. I've definitely seen some pictures from some of the Lifetime Grand Prix events in the previous years of riders just sitting off on the side with like just a hot mess in their hands of like sealant and everything all over the. Oh my god, it seems horrible. I can't believe people do this.
Yeah. But, so I'm gonna put you on the spot with a question then, which is, do you think the prominence of inserts is already coming down again? Like, do you think we've reached peak insert and it's becoming less popular now, or do you think it's going to? There's still room for it
for gravel or for mountain bike or both.
You can specify. If you want to break it down into disciplines, go ahead. But yeah.
So I think that it's a pretty good solution, but it's not. It doesn't really address the problem in the best way. Maybe it's. I've always sort of wondered if. I mean, you'd think by now, as sophisticated and technologically kind of advanced as bikes seem to be, that something as common as a flat tire would have sort of been addressed by these engineers and everything by now. There was a promising product that I feel like was a Schwalbe branded product, and I could be totally getting that wrong, but it was like an inflatable. I think you had to drill your rims and use a second valve. It was like an inflatable.
The Procore.
It was almost like a bead lock, with like a. It was yes. So it like was both a bead lock, which is cool. It's basically like an inner tube though, which is like okay. But I liked that idea, especially because it did actually hold the bead of the. So if you did flat, you could like really ride it in decently. Like it wouldn't be that flat. It'd be like half or like 2/3 flat, but it'd have like a little something there, and plus a tire that wouldn't slip and slide in the bead with sealant. It's like lubing up the two, the tire bead and the rim surface. And from
memory, the big issue with that was weight. That was the downhill focused race products, but I think it was like 300 grams a wheel or something like that. If there was something like that,
I
feel like TPU might be an answer there. I think you're actually onto something there now that you're saying it. Like a tubo adds what, like, in a full size, it's like 40 grams. Yeah. So, if it was just filling the inner wall of the rim, I mean, that's
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like something that doesn't expand much, but inflates to, let's say 25 mils across, because the inner width of most gravel rims, we may even touch on some new wheel sets, are 24-ish, 23 to 24. So something that like expanded enough that it would definitely be a bead lock against. Okay. I think there's maybe some opportunity there, but I am sort of underwhelmed by the hit and miss performance of inserts. And like you say, it may even be problematic when you're actually the user of the bike and you have to deal with this. Like for cross-country athletes, they have a mechanic and a tech zone to handle wheel changes and flat tires, so they're not doing any of that themselves. But that is actually something to think about when you're racing gravel. Yeah, cross-eyed 6 hours into a thing, like beating sun down on you, and there you are with like the body covered in sealant and just nothing to do, and this is so sad sounding. I mean, I can't believe people sign up for this stuff, but there's got to be a better way to get them through.
Yeah. So no, I guess that's where I'm. Yeah, it feels like, from what I've seen in downhill and enduro racing, is that riders have gone kind of full circle with the inserts, and many have now like just gone back to using heavier casing tires. So there's less deflection in the tire, and they might be using wider widths, but the result is that they're kind of ditching the inserts so they can. I think so the tire performs as intended, like you get the right sort of casing deflection, and there's no insert stopping that. And then 2, if they do get a flat, more so in enduro, that they can actually get the tire off themselves. But yeah, I guess one to come back to maybe. But I do think it's an interesting that, like, at one point I think a lot of people are like, oh, what are these new inserts? And then from my point of view, I'm like, oh, that's old tech. We're done with that already.
Yeah, I never use them on my own bike, to be honest with you. There was never as much at stake, of course, when I go for a bike ride. But I didn't like the thought of putting something back in after I'd taken everything out already. You know, it's like, I feel like that defeats the purpose to a degree. One other thing I think is sort of under talked about in the insert department is that you're occupying some of the volume that would otherwise be occupied by air inside the tire when you put an insert in there. And so it really changes the kind of the calculus of tire pressure also, because you kind of actually have to run a little bit higher pressure like you would in a lower volume tire. I feel like, to get the tire to feel like you would want it to, because it's actually lower volume than the sidewall says it is when you fill some of that volume with a solid object like an insert. And so we kind of danced around with that for a while, but then kind of just stopped using inserts ourselves. But that was something that, as I was using inserts, was kind of like not sure if I was agreeing with some of the pressures we were running, and would sort of sometimes run 1 or 2 psi more and just ask for a feedback because I wasn't sure. And there's not like, I don't really have an answer for that, but it's definitely seems logical to me that that's got to be the case. And the tires always felt like they were softer to me, and maybe it was just me overthinking it like a mechanic might do in a race situation with high stakes. But that's something to think about too.
So Kate Courtney, not a massive rider, she's quite small.
No. Yes.
How much do you know what she weighs? She's 50-ish kilograms?
Yeah, about 100. I would say 115 to 125 pounds, depending on
are you able to tell us what PSI she had in her tires? Back then?
I mean, we would
2 years ago.
We would. I'm sure it's probably pretty similar. We would run 17 front and 18 rear in a 2.4. Like 18 and a half and 19 and a half in a 2.25. And if it was a muddy 2.25, so like a mud tire, we would do between 16 and 17 in the front, and 17 with an insert would be our hopeful starting point, but we might bump it up if it seemed like, when it's muddy too, like you're not riding as smoothly, you're kind of like hitting stuff because you can't really like maneuver the bike as, with as much as agility as you might be able to do if the ground was predictable and firm when you push off and try to hop the bike around and stuff. So I feel like you also hit stuff more than you would hit stuff in a dry, ideal conditions race. So sometimes those pressure choices were also due to the fact that you're riding the bike kind of sloppily, relatively speaking, because of how the conditions force you to ride, where you don't have the ability to really bob and weave. So it's hard to isolate the variables in this one, but I think about them a lot.
Okay. All right. Well, someone else that's been thinking about this a lot, he put it on Instagram, is Alex Howes, who's racing Unbound this weekend. He's in a unique position where he doesn't actually have a tire sponsor. He's rather sponsored by, I think it's Bike Tires Direct, who just are like an online retailer of tires. So he had like every tire he could pick, and he just did his own testing. So what I'm getting at is I actually, 24 hours from now, I'm sitting down with Alex Howes just before he goes to Unbound, and we're going to geek out on tires and how he came to the choice he's made. I don't know what he's chosen, but yeah. So for anyone listening in thinking, oh, why do tires for gravel? That sounds interesting. We'll have a whole podcast on it, chatting to one of the top contenders about how why and how they have decided that wider is faster and all the choices around that. So I guess for now we'll move on, but that is definitely one to tune back into for anyone that's listening and is eager to hear whether they need a new frame that fits a 50 mil tire.
Have we gotten a weather update on what it's going to be like in Kansas this weekend?
No, I need to look that up. So
I remember a couple of years ago, speaking of Payson, a good friend of mine from the years gone by, he won a race called Mid-South Gravel, which is another big US gravel event, and the conditions were just like so the red clay mud, nasty conditions. And I remember he was riding, I want to say it was a Maxxis Refuse.
Yes.
If you know it, it's a totally slick. It's like a training tire, like kind of like a sport road, like a 32-ish, like his might have been wider than that, but like it's not like a gravel tire. It's like a wide road tire.
Yeah, it's Maxxis version to like the Conti Gator Skin, basically. It's like almost like got a slight fire tread to it, but it's basically a road tire.
Nothing. I mean, an aesthetic pattern only.
Yeah.
But it was basically the opposite of what is happening now. They wanted to have the most clearance between tire and frame because the inevitable mud that would inevitably pack up and cause problems was easier to clear out and took longer to accumulate and cause problems in the first place because the tires were narrow and slick and didn't hold the mud as well. Yeah. So imagine running with like 2 mils of clearance in a 50 mil tire with your frame already already at the limit, and then hit some mud. I mean,
last year's race was decided by this mud patch that wrote off half the riders' trailers.
That's why it just occurred to me. And I was I know
there are a lot of riders. I know Nathan Haas was taken out of the race within the first mud section because like his drivetrain just broke. So
totally broke. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I think they got enough. I think they're going to not have a mud section as problematic as that in future, given how controversial that ended up being. But
all right. Well,
but yeah, I think if the weather does prove a problem, then good point. I'll be sure to ask Hals about that.
Yeah, I saw a post from Sofia Villafañe, the one who wins everything lately, the Argentinian girl who's been I think she won almost every on Specialized the off-road team. She's won just about everything lately. She mentioned that it did look like there was rain in the forecast earlier this week in an Instagram post I was looking at, kind of checking my feed out, and so I haven't checked lately if that has changed or not, but it's worth a second look at the weather forecast maybe before you put those 50s on. Just a thought.
All right. I'll be sure to check the forecast before I have that conversation. But certainly more on this topic to come, and to come within probably 24 hours after you're hearing this. So stay tuned. I'm going to stay on the theme of tire-related things. Brad, I don't know if you've ever heard our segment called Pick One that James and Ronan and I have done in the past, where we pick our favorite product from a category. Basically, if you could only have one, which one would it be? And I'm keen to hear your thoughts on tubeless tire sealant. You can, I guess, it's a conversation. I mean, for me, I might vary my tire sealant based on mountain bike versus road, and maybe, if I was doing a race, I might change how I'm using that tire sealant. But do you have any thoughts on this? Do you have a tire sealant that you think is superior?
I do, Dave.
All right.
I do.
All right.
So, having been in the mountain bike kind of performance cutting edge end of things, or so we think, sealant was tested a lot because the true problem, as I mentioned earlier, has not yet been addressed, which is how do you keep these darn tires from going flat in the first place? And until we figure that out, we're stuck with the sealant discussions and stuff like that. So we've tested a lot of different stuff, some brands that are super obscure, some that are Specialized, tried to make their own sealant 5 or 6 different times, and I can't really recall anybody ever saying it was good. In my experience, it was not that good. We tried to use it for a little while in the race team, and the athletes kind of didn't. I mean, no offense, this is not a product currently sold, just for everyone's awareness, but the versions of that
related to that, I was once Specialized released their special carbon sealant for road. I can't remember what the Rapid Air sealant, and then I was at the Taipei Cycle Show and came across a booth in some far corner in one of the halls that doesn't really normally sell consumer products. Like they're there for the OEM style things. Yes. Same packaging, same sealant, same product. Not with Specialized branding, and the guy's like, "Oh yeah, we're open to licensing this to anyone." I'm like, "Is this Specialized sealant?" And he's like, and he got very nervous.
Yes.
So,
that's not
I don't think
uncommon. Right.
No, No, but I don't think
but there were other
own
formulas.
sealant.
Yeah, that we went through and that they were trying to do, and so a lot of companies have invested a lot of money in sealant over the years. With that all being said, the one that I have found to be the most effective is orange sealed. Orange seal for me, like mountain or road, it's one of those things where it's hard to find and isolate the variables that can say definitively that this sealant worked better than that sealant, because flat tires are unique, and temperature and how old your sealant is and when you last put it in and how much, and blah, blah. I mean, there's so many variables that can affect whether you think your sealant was effective or not. But that's what I use in the bike shop unless somebody begs me to use something else.
Okay.
By my own decree, basically. What I like about it, I'll just say why, especially for smaller volume stuff like gravel and road, is that it creates kind of like a latex film, almost like an inner tube of its own inside. So it creates like an actual chamber, like a membrane around the entire like inner structure of the tire and rim and everything inside. Of course, the liquid is still sloshing around within that,
Sure.
and is very effective at quickly plugging things. But what I like, and what you may have experienced if you've used road tubeless before, and if you've ever listened to Dave and me talk about it, I always complain about how if you let it sit for too long, and the pressure drops to a certain point, oftentimes because of the structure of the tire and how small it is, it will sort of pull itself away from the rim and just kind of lose its seal. And depending on how well taped or how deeply taped your rims are and how much kind of contact you have between the tire bead and the rim chamber within the rim itself, you can really struggle to get that tire to seal back up again and seat back up on the rim again if you're at home or on the road somewhere with maybe a floor pump, but not that much in the way of like a compressor or a large volume blast of air to help seat that tire again. So it kind of keeps that from ever happening. I mean, there's definitely like 2 to 3 months is kind of like at the long end of how often you should probably go without replacing your sealant. And that's a little bit of a tedious thing that a lot of people overlook and don't do when they haven't gotten a flat. They kind of leave it until they do get a flat, and then it's like kind of too late and doesn't work very well.
Yeah.
So it's like, sure, if you stay on top of it, most sealant's going to work better than 8-month-old orange seal that hasn't been touched. But I think if you're kind of following the same protocols, using the same tires and setup and riding style, my best luck has always been orange seal.
Interesting. They do a few different products. You're talking the regular sealant, I assume, as opposed to the endurance?
I've used both. I use the regular personally.
Yeah.
I've used both, and they're both good. I couldn't actually tell a difference in my experience using one or the other. I was told that one lasts longer.
So endurance lasts longer.
So
regular is meant to be more effective at sealing punctures.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always used the regular. I don't really care how long it lasts because I was changing tires, sometimes multiple times in one day. So it's certainly every weekend we would change it because we were doing different tires at different courses, and sometimes even over the course of a weekend you'll run a few different options, whether for testing or because the weather dictated it. And so I was never worried about how long it lasted. It was just about how effective it was. And they made a product too. It was like a race day sealant that they basically added like glitter. Glitter in there. Yeah. Which was like an old school trick that a lot of guys were doing at Cape Epic back in the day.
Yeah.
Because it just like is an extra large particle that helps to kind of fill in some voids that the smaller particles could then fill in. So it's just, basically creating a more robust, like the solid particles that sort of plug up the holes in the tire, the cuts in the tire. So I had a few bottles of that. That also worked well, but fundamentally, I think it has more to do with the liquid part of it, really. I think what that stuff does is different than most of the other, if not all the other types of sealant I've used, where it creates that kind of airtight membrane in there, and it's just like an extra layer of kind of security or like air tightness that I feel like is missing for like stands, for example, or something like that. It doesn't do that in there.
Yeah. Okay. And for if you're putting that in a customer bike at the bike shop at the moment, how regular are you recommending people top it up? I
tell them 3 months.
Okay. Yeah. So it's not the longest lasting sealant. Yeah. But it's effective.
3 months and sooner is better if you if you can, but with Orange Seal specifically, I find 3 months to be fine, and there's still liquid in there when I take it back off, and it's not like dried up and kind of a little crumply like ball of kind of stuff at the bottom of the tire bouncing around.
You don't get Stanimals
you don't get a Stanimal.
That's a shame.
No.
I used to keep mine. I had a little T-Rex dinosaur,
on the
and used to get some crazy shapes. Yeah. So that's one reason
we're showing our age.
You get collectibles. So, but I guess with that, do you recommend going through the valve stem with Orange Seal, or is your approach always to remove the tire and see what's happening inside before you add more?
I actually find it's easier to just remove the tire in a bike shop where you have a compressor. You're not worried about it. Like, I might modify that answer if I was told that it's 30 minutes before the start of a big race and you just for some reason need to put some sealant in, but you're like, then I would be hesitant to break the bead of my tire. Any other time I would definitely just do it from the bead, because people would come in with flats. But I think another thing about tubeless that's under addressed is the tape itself peeling up. And then you have like the ingress of the liquid, which then further degrades the adhesion, and then your tape's all fucked up, and then then you have sealant and air coming out from your spoke holes or from your valve stem, and then you think it's your valve stem, but it's not. It's because it's gone in through the spoke holes of the rim and out through the valve stem, because that's like its easiest passage out.
And it only stops once every bit of sealant in your tire is filled the cavity of your rim.
Entered the rim chamber and never comes out. It's like now your rim weighs 65 more grams in one spot only, and it has a total. Anyway, that's another thing. I think there's room for improvement in the game of sealing the rim chamber, whether that is like the wheels that Pauline and Tom are using now, or the Synchros ones also have the completely sealed chamber. Even the UST rims back in the day, those very first Mavic Cross Max 2s had a sealed, and then here we are with some tape.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a conspiracy with 3M and Tessa, the two major adhesive tape manufacturers trying to
big sealant is coming for us.
Yeah. And the latex industry as well getting involved.
It's always these rubber companies, petroleum based stuff.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
So, all right. Well, that sounds good. Orange Seal, it has been regularly recommended before, and it sounds like it's still the go from what you've seen. And
what do you think?
Old habits die hard with me, and I still find myself buying stands simply because it's what I ran nearly 20 years ago. That's
what
not
other
a very
stuff
good...
that you ran 20 years ago are you still using?
Same pair of socks. No, it's a good question. It's a very good question. No, I mean,
It's a rhetorical question. Yep.
I've had pretty good luck with stands. I actually use Joe's, which
I have too, in Cairns actually. Yeah.
So Joe's is like, it kind of came off the back of like a direct copy of Stan's, but it's now a semi-legitimate brand. Well, it is a legitimate brand, and I find their super sealant is kind of like somewhere between a Stan's regular and a Stan's race sealant, and the race sealant being like a super short shelf life product with a heap of latex in it that's really just designed to plug holes but not last very long. And this super sealant, I find, is a pretty nice balance between longevity and plugging holes. That said, if I'd either use that or I would actually use Orange Seal. Those are the two that I've had good luck with. In the end, I'd probably go Joe's at the moment just because it is significantly cheaper for me to purchase, and that's the only reason. Yeah. So
I think at the end of the day, that's what makes a lot of people make their decision, which might negate some of this whole conversation. But it's okay. We'll still have it.
And I think there's a geographical element to that. And depends on the distributor that you have access to. And for me, I get trade pricing on one, and I don't get trade pricing on the other. So I think that's the answer. But I mean, I'm not gonna. I think Orange Seal, generally speaking, especially amongst the Escape Collective members on Discord, Orange Seal is one of those products that often comes up as like, just do orange seal in your tires, stop wasting your time with everything else. So definitely a safe bet. All right, I'm going to move us on because James is always very good with keeping us near an hour, and I'm already failing at that. So I'm going to move us on just to try pretend like I can host this. And let's do a PSA. So public service announcement. This one came from someone you may know, Brad, a Gregory Thomas.
A Gregory Thomas.
Yes. I believe you've worked with Greg in the past.
I have worked with Greg in the past. He's still the first person I'd call when I have a question I want to bounce off somebody whose opinion I think is legitimate. A lot of people out there that I've worked with whose opinion I value, but none more so than Greg's. He's one of the most well thought out guys. But I believe this recommendation, I saw our notes before the meeting and I saw his name on it, so I did actually read it. It's a very good tip. Take it away.
So it comes off the back of last week's PSA, which is not last week's PSA, last week's pick one, which I think was last week's, which was related to our favorite tubeless plug kits. So for plugging tires, it might have been the week before, but anyway, his tip, Greg's tip is know how to use your spares. So know how to use your tire plugs, know how to use your chain breaker, know how to use your CO2 if you're using a CO2, know how your pump attaches. Basically, don't wait until the time that you actually have to use it in order to figure out how it works. And I think that's a pretty damn good tip.
It is. Greg is a master of the simple solution as well. And I think a lot of times some thought put in on the front end of situations really saves you a lot in the end, whether it's time or headaches or both. This is something, in my experience, where this most applied, I would say, was during the Cape Epic, which for those who may not know, it's one of the sort of preeminent mountain bike races to win. It's not a World Cup. It's a stage race that has 8 very long,
it's almost like the Tour de France of mountain bike.
Yes. You have a 2-person team. There was a women's field and a men's field, obviously, and then for each team, it's 2 riders. And I did this with Jaroslav Kulhavy and Howard Gratz was a men's team, and Annika Langvad and Kate Courtney as a women's team in 2019. And both teams won. That's the exciting news. It's a very hard race to do, so I felt very good to have gotten the win out of the way and not necessarily have to go back and do that race over and over again. It's a tough one. It's a tough one logistically. It's tough for the mechanics because the days are long, and then you have a whole night to basically redo everything because the bikes get absolutely roached every single day. But because they get roached every single day, they often will encounter unexpected mechanical issues along the way, most notably flats like usual. But we spent a lot of time in the days leading up to the race going over with our riders, not just like what they should bring and sort of packing all their little spares in the time we're using SWAT boxes on the Specialized bikes. If you recall, it's like a little plastic box on the down tube. It mounted to the water bottle cage and one water bottle boss on the frame. And it was a nice little thing. They don't make it anymore, but I would love if more of, I thought that was great because it put everything in like a low position on the bike. So the center of gravity of the bike was not as crazy as it is if you put a big heavy saddlebag on. I don't know if you've ever done that, but it really changes how the bike feels. It's crazy.
And it doesn't work so well with dropper posts anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And so we would like do coaching sessions where, we would talk about the techniques that we use as mechanics for all these fixes, and then, make them do it themselves, like actually like stab tires with the, a dental pick and then hand it to them as it's blowing sealant and crap out in their face and say, all right, go. and then they use the stuff and they tell us, they're like, that was so useful that we actually went through it because I've never actually done that in a race before. And, of course, once they then had a hard day where they had to struggle, but they succeeded and won the race, everybody felt really good after that. I'm sure if the outcome had been different, they may not have been so thrilled, but
for sure.
Nevertheless, even pros at the highest level don't always have extreme familiarity with that type of stuff. No. So it's definitely, I think also Greg suggested too that like if you're at the end phase of a tire, is on its last leg.
Oh, that's my addition. I'm not going to let Greg take credit for that one.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Never mind. Greg.
No, Greg.
To stab your own tire just to get a few rounds of practice in. Because it's not that often that you get a puncture. I mean, maybe it is for some people, but not for me. And so when it is, it's always like, oh God, I hope wait, is this CO2 fresh? I don't remember. So it's always good, even those of us who think about this more than average. It's you take an inventory, know what's in there, make sure you have the batteries you need. If you have all these new SRAM parts that need all these 2032, little watch style batteries, and maybe a spare Axis battery too, if you feel like you're gonna forget to charge your bike up. But like know what you have, know why you have it, and know where it is when you need it. That's kind of the rules.
Yeah, so my addition to Greg's point there, which is, Greg's is like, know how to use your stuff. And my addition is, often people are too scared to like waste a CO2 cartridge, but I would say waste one CO2 cartridge to ensure that you know what you're doing.
Like 6 on the side of the road.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
It's preventative. It's preventative. Likewise with tubeless plugs, Brad just mentioned it, but as if you're about to replace that tire, go ahead and, stab it. Maybe be careful how you stab it so you don't actually stab your rim like I've seen some people do. Yeah. But carefully stab your tire, know how to use your tubeless plug, check that it works, check that you're comfortable with it. And same with like your chain breaker. A lot of people don't know how to use the chain breaker on their multi-tool. If you're up for a bike service and you need a new chain, maybe use your chain breaker now and break the chain and try put it back together in an emergency situation to prove to yourself that you can when you're not sweating and stressed and wanting to get back to the group or wanting to continue a race or event or whatever the scenario is. I would say just take the opportunity with your worn out stuff to test it. And that said, if you are breaking your chain and about to take your bike into a bike shop, take the chain in with you so they can actually see how worn it was. Because the chain's an important detail in knowing what else needs to be replaced. I guess let's move on to what's new in the industry. And I don't know if you've seen the notes, Brad, but there's only a few things that's new in the for this week. I guess it's a quieter week than usual.
I was gonna say.
So 2 new wheel sets. First up, DT Swiss have some new gravel wheels coming just in time for Unbound. So it's the GRC 1100 Dicut and the GRC 1400 Dicut, which are basically using this consistent rim, which it gets a little bit confusing because there's 2 rim depths between these 2 wheels. So there's a 30 mil and a 50 millimeter option, both with a 24 millimeter internal width. And they're available built up into that 1100 series wheel set, which sort of uses the top end spoke and a DT 180 level hub. And then the 1400 version is a 240 level hub with a similar spoke. But you're sort of between the price differences, you're looking at like $3,000 versus $2,400 for those 2 versions. And what else to tell you? The 50 mil depth has an outer width of 36.5, which is pretty significantly wide.
That's pretty fat.
It's pretty fat for DT Swiss for what they've done. It's sort of in line with where Hunt, I guess, have gone with their aero gravel wheels in recent time. But what's interesting was that... interesting and I guess not at all surprising is that DT Swiss claims for that 50 mil depth gravel wheel that at 37.5 kilometers per hour, which is a little lower than what such wheels are normally tested at, and with a 40 mil tire fitted, DT are showing themselves as fastest against like NBSES 4.5 AR, the Zip 353 NSW, and that Hunt Limitless gravel aero wheel. They're also showing themselves as sort of being the most consistent in terms of stability. And I guess that 50 mil depth versus the 30 mil depth saves approximately and claimed 2.6 watts at that 37.5 kilometers per hour with that 40 mil tire fitted. But that leads me to a question, Brad, which is, given that deeper wheel adds approximately, it's more than 200 grams versus, so the 50 mil adds 200 grams to the wheel set versus the 30 mil depth. When would you expect riders or racers to actually choose that heavier wheel set with only then saving 2.6 watts of energy and potentially increasing the amount of vibration to the rider?
That was my first question was, what trade-off are you really experiencing in terms of the ride quality, especially in a gravel race? Like on a road bike, it's pretty straightforward, and you might choose one versus the other, but you'd have to be on a gravel race, maybe like last year's Worlds course, where it was, I mean, that was like super tame. You could ride that on road tires, and a lot of guys did, I think. So for sure, there's like an occasion. It would definitely have to be like your once in a while wheel set.
But then,
because, I
guess the tricky part with that is like if you're on road tires, then you're probably not going to pick the gravel wheel set. You're picking your road wheel set.
Yeah,
like
I mean, you could do like a 40 mil. Is it the Receptor? It's a Maxxis tire that's like basically totally slick center with like a couple edge knobs along the sides. I don't know. I mean, this is kind of like the conversation we had earlier about aero and mountain bike wheels and stuff, where I feel like it maybe aero may not be the number one thing to really put your effort into there, especially at a race like these Unbound type events where, you know, throughout the day you're going in all four cardinal directions at some point, where the wind is going in one of those directions probably for the whole day mostly. So you're going to be in the wind, you're going to get crosswinds, you'll be getting a tailwind. And I always found in crosswinds, no matter what the aero claims were, I much prefer a shallower depth wheel. I used to live along the coast in California, and you come around like on the Monterey Peninsula, so you kind of come around the peninsula, and depending which side you were on, you would get hit with this crosswind, and it would like make the bike so unstable and crazy, and then add dirt and washboard, ruts and who knows what else. And I would much rather be on the wheel that was more stable and predictable and smoother riding, I presume, too, for the 30 versus the 50. That's definitely the case with basically every other wheel set, so I assume it would have to be with this one too. And furthermore, I think that most of the feelings and sensations that you get from your bike come through your tire first, and so a lot of this tire and wheel stuff is kind of out the window if you don't get your tires set up right in the first place and have the right pressures and these things. And so I tend to think that, especially for 2.6 watts saved, you're probably losing 2.6 or more watts to the setup with those rims if they're, if the course is rough enough and you're bouncing around, which you most likely are at a race like any gravel race I'm aware of. So I've been using 353 NSWs. I think that's a really awesome wheel set. I love the depth. It's a super versatile depth. I've been a 303 fan since for my whole life. That's been my favorite wheel set kind of year in, year out. But I love a DT Swiss internal. So I think the internal with the hubs are sort of being barely mentioned in this press release, but I think DT Swiss hubs are the reason to buy a DT Swiss wheel set. And I can safely assume that the carbon rim is going to be good quality because they make good quality stuff consistently. But the hubs and the universal availability of hub parts and service parts is a reason enough in and of itself to buy a DT Swiss wheel set, in my opinion.
So the pricing's certainly high. Like I said, $3,000 for the top end version. Yes. That's USD. That's not a small amount of money, but I guess it is worth reiterating that we're talking about hubs that are made in Switzerland, spokes that are made in Switzerland. The rims are DT Swiss's own out of their factory in Poland, and the rims are now using this new finish, which is very similar to what Campagnolo's top end wheels do, which is like it's straight out of the mold, no further finishing. So it's like smooth finish, like a mirror-like finish out of the mold, which sort of suggests that they're doing some pretty nice things there to achieve that sort of finish quality. The other thing I didn't mention is there's hooks on the rims, which is quite nice. So and what's interesting is DT Swiss claim, and again they DT Swiss traditionally works with Swisside, which are aerodynamic experts on this stuff, but they claim that in their testing they found that the hooks actually had an aerodynamic benefit which
No
goes
shit.
completely opposite what both Envy and Zip claim, which is hookless is more aero.
Yeah.
So I am loving this. From a technical release point of view, there's just so much in this release that's the whole hooked and hookless debate, and DT Swiss were very cheeky in their press release where they're like, these wheels are off the hook, but then
good.
quietly just suggested that there are hooks actually in the rims.
Yeah.
So
That's cool. I have a little bit of misgivings still about hookless, so I'm cool with it.
Says the person that loves the Zip 303 and 353.
I haven't had any problems personally.
Yeah,
but
sure.
It's just I've seen some problems.
Yeah,
that might have to do with it, and as a concept, it's just kind of hard to wrap my head around. But I don't see, especially if it's more aero. I mean, I know that there's a negligible weight penalty too for the extra material there, but it seems so much more secure.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, come on. So especially when you're railing out at low pressures on a gravel tire, you know, so side loading them, locking them up on some dirt, you know.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that's often not shared by brands is that hookless is significantly easier to manufacture because you have a straight wall, so you can have much simpler molds and get better compaction that way. And fundamentally, that's the incentive to push the technology is easier manufacturing and, you know, therefore reduce costs. And that's the skeptical view, but that's also that's the reality. So it's cool to see some high end performance focused wheels still coming out with hooks and I guess arguing the point for hooks. So anyway, I guess more on that in future. I guess
they're nice looking wheel set too. I will say
it is.
The hubs are very lovely and the rim finish is very tasteful and classy. It's not overdone with graphics. It's a nice looking wheel set.
Yeah, I just can't personally see where I'd ever pick the heavier 50mm version over the 30. I think for me, I'd be picking the 30 every single day.
I would too. I think the 50mm looks cool on bikes. Makes the setup look really great and like aggressive, but I would never think it would be the right choice personally.
Yeah. The other thing, and I might be oversharing here, information that's not my own, but Graham Shrive, who is the head of R&D and engineering at Factor and Black Ink, formerly the head of engineering at Cervelo, did say to me that the one thing no one really talks about or thinks about with gravel aero is that the tire itself is really deep compared to a road tire. So if you're talking about a 50mm depth gravel wheel and you're putting a big fat tire on top of it, it's actually a far deeper wheel at that point than what an equivalent road wheel would be. So food for thought.
Yeah.
Another wheel set. This time from Easton, they've got the EC90 ALX. Again, being released just in time for Unbound. It's sort of a gravel / all-road focused wheel. This one's a bit more affordable, US $1,400 with a carbon rim. This one is 36mm deep, 24mm internal width. And it's using Easton's own Volt hubs with some big ass flanges and straight pull spokes. 1,495 grams claimed. I don't know if you've seen this one, Brad. I guess there's not quite as much to talk. Oh, you did see this? Okay.
I did. I liked their use of this sort of flat top on the top of the bead of the rim, sort of a puncture mitigation feature. Not new, but I like seeing it. It's a good idea along the conversation we had earlier about punctures and inserts and all those things. It's a nice feature a lot of carbon rims have these days because you can have it on a carbon rim relatively easily. Where the snake bite effect from an impact type puncture is mitigated by the fact that they basically flatten out the top of the bead of the rim. So when you look at it in profile, it's much flatter. So there's much more surface area, much less, I guess, pressure per square inch of impact to the tire, so less likely to puncture it in the impact. That's a nice feature in gravel race.
A welcome feature. That. Yeah. The other thing, I guess, is Easton notoriously, and for quite a while now, they've been one of the leaders in terms of offering the ridiculous warranty that if you crash your bike or you smack into a pothole, they replace it. So that's actually pretty good, given the price point on these is not.
I was gonna say for the
crazy.
money, that's compelling.
Yeah. So this is
wheels
actually,
have gotten kind of cheaper. I mean, for a number of reasons, but I remember, we just talked about the DT Swiss wheels being quite expensive, but back in like a new set of Zips was like $2,400 in like 2012, and that was when they were made in Indiana. But like, bike parts have gotten quite expensive, these electronic things, but wheels have actually kind of gone down in price for the most part.
For sure.
You can still buy a very expensive wheel set, but they're not like for the performance and stuff. You can get a good ass wheel set for like $1,500. Like this one right here, it's a good wheel set.
Yeah. SAP and CX spokes. It's all good
the
stuff.
Hubs, those hubs are nice. I've seen them on mountain bike wheels, or like the mountain bike version of those hubs are really nice. Seemingly. Yeah.
No, this wheel looks really good. I mean, if I was in the market for a new gravel set, this is right up my alley. Like, I currently use a Roval Terra CL on my own gravel bike, which is a really nice wheel, sort of at this sort of range, and it seems like a good competitor to that. So lastly on my list, Castelli have the Unlimited Pro jersey, which is a gravel aero race jersey with a mesh pocket for a 1.5 liter hydration bladder.
Or if you rigged it up a different way, you could never get off to go to the bathroom as well. So there's a dual functionality, as long as you don't have.
As long as you don't have don't have two hoses. You don't want one coming in, one going out through the same bladder.
Don't do the two hose setup. No. But that's kind of derivative from some old time trial stuff. From like,
it is.
I remember some old Tour de France tech when they would wear a camelback bladder inside of like an aero. It's like a skin suit of some kind.
Am I imagining Dave Zabriskie might have done that, or is it?
I think they did, and then I think they banned them because riders were positioning the wader placement in such a way that it created a better aero profile on their back.
It smoothed out the transition between the helmet and the back. Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, this has got the same vibes all over again.
Yeah.
But this one is actually designed to be drinkable.
And it comes in brown, so it's for gravel.
It is, yes. And it's, and because you can see the bladder on the outside, I can't imagine any other discipline being willing to wear this in public.
True. True. But it has like integrated hose routing for the hose. I think it's like pretty cool. I mean, I wouldn't personally necessarily be wearing it, but like they thought about it. It's pretty nice looking garment.
Yeah. So my question on this, not that every new tech piece needs a question, but my question to you is, riders are already using pretty lightweight hydration packs, but they kind of have a layer of material between the bladder and you, and then a layer of material between the bladder and the sun. This one doesn't really have either. How do you feel about the warm water?
I was wondering about that. So when you're thirsty enough, it doesn't really matter, but it's definitely going to be cooking you on your back when you're riding. And water is a very good like a heat insulator, and so it will trap it. It will trap it there. And I was thinking also, this might be one of those things that needs some long-term testing to really figure out the timing of everything. But if you put some ice in there, it could also be like a cooling vest for you. Potentially. I mean, I don't know. I assume it would make you feel cold if you had very cold water.
The placement of this makes me think the riders that are using this, or any rider that is using this, will have at transition probably a fresh, cool...
The second one?
Hydration bladder they can just pop in.
Yeah, I would assume. It's not quite big enough to be a 10-hour day kind of capacity.
And you wouldn't waste time refilling it either. You just change it out. So
yeah. But yeah, I mean... I used to race cross-country mountain bike races back in the old days before I went to the XCO discipline, where races were much shorter. And back in the day, you were self-supported. I was a junior. I didn't have like tech zone support really. So I was carrying my own water and everything. And I raced with a Camelback a lot of the time because it was where I lived very hot. And so you needed water. And I hated it.
Knowing your age and when you would race juniors, can I assume you raced with the Camelback Rocket?
I had actually, I think it was just the classic. It was like the most basic one because it was the smallest one, like the lightest one.
Gotcha.
That's what I wanted because, and it didn't have any pockets or features. I didn't carry anything but water in there. I actually would only fill it like a third of the way full because the races weren't long enough to need the whole thing. But it was like more than just one water bottle. But like, just having it on you, especially in a mountain bike where you're really like, it's a dynamic kind of upper body activity too.
Yeah.
It was, I didn't like it, and it would get hot, and that was my complaint. And then like kind of tasted more like a Camelback than usual when it's hot, because it like sort of, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like they're better in that regard now, but yeah, they definitely used to have a funky taste in them back then.
I can still taste it. I would clean mine too, like regularly. Yeah. So anyway, it's an answer to a question that is maybe only asked among the gravel set, but what I will say, and it's not being talked about as this, but one thing I think is, as gravel tries to be a pro activity, it is for the most part these days. And I used to think this at mountain bike, like marathon distance events too, and pros would wear like a hydration pack over their team kit, and you don't see any of it, And so this is like a way where you can have like a full blown pro race kit and still have all the sponsors visible, which to the consumer doesn't matter at all. But that is a nice thing for these athletes who are, trying to get the visibility for these brands that are supporting them. And then if you cover it up on race day, all the photos you have may obscure some of that stuff.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that's what drove the design necessarily. I think it's a good kind of seamless feature to be able to eliminate the whole backpack element from the hydration pack equation. But I think that maybe an added bonus is the ability for a team or to either use this or something like this garment to have like a more pro looking gravel setup in general. It just makes the kind of aesthetic more sleek.
That makes perfect sense. I hadn't thought of that, but
I like that about it.
Yeah. Oh, well, Unbound is this weekend, so yeah, by the time you're listening to this, it might have already happened or is about to happen. So
we'll know whether my muddy tire prediction was true or not.
Yeah. How many fought with inserts? How many wore the new aero jersey and had a sweet aero hump at the back of their warm back? So
if it's won by a second or less, and one guy has the aero hump and one guy doesn't, we'll know it was the hump.
Yeah.
there'll be an asterisk by this win forever.
or the treaded versus slick tires.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so many unknowns, but that's certainly. If you're keen on more Unbound stuff, check out that interview I'm about to do with Alex Howes. And for now, I think let's wrap up this episode. Where I went about 20 minutes over the time that James manages to normally keep us in, so we're not terribly over. But
for our first one, that was good.
Yeah, we can tighten that up a little bit in future. So
yeah.
All right, Brad. Well, thank you for joining me for the first new Geek Warning, which is very much like the old Geek Warning, and
with more geek.
20
minutes more geek.
Yeah. With a new James, which is me, and then a new Dave,
the new Dave, which is me.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for tuning in and hopefully sticking around this long. And again, thanks to all of our members that make Escape Collective possible. It's through your support and membership that it lets us do content like this and get guests and sidekicks and co-members and co-hosts like Brad on. Thank you very much. And for anyone that has been considering joining Escape Collective, please know that we're actually not yet profitable. So any support that you can give and any consideration that you can give to becoming a member will actually make a difference to us. We're just a small little business begging for your money. And if you are interested, escapecollective.com/member, and that'll take you to a link that will let you sign up. Thank you very much. Until next week. Cheers.